When we nosed the new make spirit at Glenlivet, fruity, floral banana. I'd hose in the top of the still, and he took my hand and he says, "Don't clean the top of the still." We have an old saying in Scotland in the northeast, they were not idiots a long time ago.
Towards the end of last year, I had the incredible opportunity to interview a giant in Scotch whisky, Alan Winchester.
Glenlivet's master distiller,
Alan Winchester.
The Alan Winchester.
Alan Winchester.
So Alan's career spans over 5 decades, starting as a tour guide all the way to being the revered master distiller at the Glenlivet and now beyond. So stick around if you want to hear some fascinating stories and insights to the art of whiskey making from one of the most pivotal figures in the whiskey industry. A very special guest today. This is Alan Winchester, and so he's helping out Waiheke Whisky. That's a New Zealand whiskey. They're doing really fantastic things, and they've just started working on their new still run.
That's
It's
right.
the first time they're putting cask down, and so they've got kind of a guru, a master in to help them along with that. And I thought, well, while he's here, let's have a bit of chat, let's have some banter. So Alan, just tell us a bit about your background for people who don't know. Who are you? What have you done? Do you work in whiskey or something? Is that part of the...
Something like that, Phil. It started by accident. I took a summer job and leaving school at Glenfarclas Distillery. The reason I do that is the history of it's there. I started my career there next door to where my grandfather and great-grandfather's farm. My cousin still farms the land there, and my cousin's son still farm it, so the family connections, they're very much Karen, certainly in my grandfather Green's side.
Wow,
so
still going.
I was always aware of this building up in there, and I was also living in a village called Burghead at the time, and they were building then the biggest drum malting in Europe to replace a lot of the floor maltings in Speyside at the time. So you're aware of whiskey, but it's something you just, it's there. So the summer job was doing the visitor's guide. My career path in the Royal Navy and Merchant Navy didn't work out, so I got a job in a distillery. From there, I then went down to work at the then Glenlivet Distillers at Glengrant, working in the cooperage. With a cooperage that served 9 distilleries within Speyside.
So cooperage at Glengrant.
At Glengrant.
And back then, for people who don't know, back then a lot of the distilleries were called Glenlivet, right? Because it was a place.
They carried the hyphenated Glenlivet. That's right. It was. I've seen it from both sides, because I've seen it from the distilleries that have carried the hyphenate, but they felt that the Glenlivet region belonged to everybody. But then I went to the Glenlivet Distillers, Glenlivet Distillers, and it was they felt it was very important that their appellation was being stolen by everybody. Macallan, Glenlivet, Glengrant, Glenlivet. Out as far as Glenburgie at Forres. Strathyla, Glenlivet, the Keith Distilleries.
It's quite an interesting little...
They're nowhere near the River Livet, but the River Livet flows into the River Anne and then flows into the Spey. So that was it.
And so after Glengrant, you were...
I worked in all the distilleries. By that time, the Glenlivet Distillers had been taken over by Seagram or Shivers Brothers. It got quite a large operation by then. Also seeing quite tough times through the 80s. But then this slow build up of the distilling, the renaissance of whiskey, and then of course very much into single malts. So I stood down as a production manager of that company a few years ago. Did some brand ambassadorial. Indeed, my last ambassadorial work abroad was before the pandemic, and I came to see one of what do you call it? He's not a school friend, but we were at the same school at Keith Grammar, Michael Fraser Milne down at Christchurch. Michael visited Aberlour a few years. He popped in with his father. I gave him a box, and I said, you can make a lampshade out of it. And he says, Father, I'm not taking that back to New Zealand. His father came through to him later while he was packing his case, and he says, you sure? He says, well, I do. I like that. It's just a joke. He said, it's this prized bottle. And we drank it 20 years to the day.
Oh, did you?
At
Wow.
Christchurch. He says, I'll open it when you come to New Zealand.
Yeah, wow.
I think he had to pull a few strings to get me to...
Wow. Was that at Whiskey Galore?
That was at Whiskey Galore in 2020.
Yeah, wow. He's done fantastic things for getting great whiskey to here in New Zealand.
Yeah.
And that's part of the reason I've been able to explore Scotch so well, is because of what they've done and talking to people like you. So what do you think, you've been in whiskey a long time, what do you think one of the biggest sort of misconceptions people might have about whiskey would be?
I often hear folks say, I tasted whiskey once and I don't like it.
Yeah.
That would be probably ourselves of it. My early was probably a toddy.
Yeah.
And whiskey was there. And working in the industry there's a lot of conception is if you want to drink it with a drop of water in it, you'll see that I take it with water.
Yeah.
This concept, it's something you drink and eat and that. Now, some of these beautiful single cask bottlings, etc., are deserve to be sipped.
Yeah.
But this is you start of your summer.
Yeah,
I've left winter.
Yeah, it's a hot day.
Believe it or not, I'll be drinking it with ice here because it's a warm climate and I like a refreshing drink.
That's so true. So even someone like you're still wanting to have it with ice. I'm exactly the same. In summertime, I'm having a lot of old fashions, especially like cask strength whiskey with an old fashioned. It's just fantastic, and it's sometimes what you want. Like I don't want a big sherry bomb, smoke bomb in the middle of summer.
Well, I'm pouring with sweat just sitting here. I'm heading back to winter tomorrow.
Oh, true.
So
I'll come with you. I feel the heat. I run hot.
But these concepts and also it's such a fantastic whole genre because I represent Scotch, obviously, because I'm from Scotland. But there's fantastic whiskies all around the world, and we're speaking about New Zealand here.
We are.
I've tasted a number of the whiskies from New Zealand. Excellent whiskies.
Yeah, it's incredible, right?
I think New Zealand, what they've done is moved early to put in the things that Scotland took a long time to do by an association and that.
Yeah.
And that is really good for their customers.
Yeah.
Because they can then say, New Zealand has put these rules in place
early on
that you've done. And I think that shows a maturity of the industry already.
Yeah, definitely. What do you think of the rise of world whiskey? Are you excited? Do you think should Scotch distilleries be worried about the rise? Or what do you think? Or is it just exciting to have a bit more diversity? Or?
Yeah, Phil, you cover a few points with that. Yeah. First of all, we have no right to the world of whiskey, and also everybody else is making whiskey. Some are making innovative styles of whiskey. Folk are exploring the boundaries. Yeah. Definitely the smaller crafts, which you will see being played by the bigger players. They will be. We're seeing trends there. We'll do it. I think it's fantastic to see. I think the guys in Sweden, McMyra, and they've done well.
Great whiskey.
Fantastic whiskey. Met them a few times.
Yeah.
So I think it's fantastic. Japan, of course.
Yeah.
And the Taketsura came to find out about making whiskey at Longmorn Distillery. The Uchi stills are allegedly copies of what was Longmorn at the time. Longmorns have slightly changed.
Right.
He met Peter Innes, a guy from Nakando at Campbelltown, stayed with him when he married Rita. unfortunately, they come to visit Scotland, and Longmorn's not open to the public.
Yeah, I love Japanese. Longmorn. Yeah.
Fantastic whiskey again.
Yeah.
Excellent whiskey.
Yeah.
We always used to say it was in the guys that worked in the guys and girls that worked in the company.
Yeah.
We used to say, they would ask you what's your next favourite. And a lot of us would mention Longmorn.
Longmorn. Yeah. The Longmorn 16 I absolutely love. The one in the green bottle.
That's right.
Yeah, very good.
And fairness to Gordon MacPhail, they've bottled lovely old expressions of it as well.
Yeah. And it's exciting to see their direction now with Ben Romick, going all in on Ben Romick.
Ben Riach. Sorry.
Gordon MacPhail.
Yes, Ben Romick, yes.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the cairn that's just been built up at Granton. Lovely. Distillery, a must visit for the view of the cairn gorms. And the one day that you can see the mountains in Scotland for the bad weather.
Right, yeah. Not just, without the Scotch mist.
Yes.
Yeah. Is there any stories, so when you look at your everything you've done, is there any stories that stand out that kind of, are those moments, is there any sort of like key moments, key epiphanies or anything?
There's one this week.
Yeah, what's that?
Now, it's been mentioned many times, and I'm working with the team here, and they're really dedicated. And I always remember being told by an old stillman, and I was in the spirit still.
Yeah.
And I was in with the hose, keen as mustard, hosing everything. And then I started hosing the top of the still.
Yeah.
And he took my hand and he says, don't clean the top of the still, the spirit still.
Yeah.
He says, there's a patina in that still and don't disturb it, it'll affect the flavour of the whiskey.
And
I was young and I thought, these traditions again.
Yeah.
So a number of years later, there was a couple of issues in some distilleries. And then I read the report from the Scotch Whisky Research Institute and says the patina and the tops of the spirit stills are very important at fixing any off notes, etc. Right. He says, that stillman told me that when I started my career.
Wow.
So guess what they were doing this week? They were hosing. I says, don't hose. I told them that story as well.
How
it's so important that, but yet it's that empirical knowledge that gets handed down.
It is.
But it's backed up by science when we understand it.
Right.
Yeah. So they knew a lot.
They did.
Yeah. It's old. We have an old saying in Scotland in the northeast.
Yeah.
They weren't a feel long sign. And that translates as they were not idiots a long time ago.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, I always think about the people who invented distillation itself. I mean, how do you even do that? How do they even come up with that? Someone's sort of boiling something and then they think, oh, we'll try drinking some of this, and it's incredible.
That knowledge to return the foreshots and feints to pick your strength up.
Yeah.
It's so simple.
Yeah.
But there was a first time somebody did that.
Yeah.
I'll just throw that back in.
Yeah.
Second distillation, treble distillation.
Yeah. Is there any specific whiskies you're liking at the moment? What are you hoping for Christmas, or anything you like enjoying?
Well, I'm asking for Christmas.
Yeah, well, what whiskies are you liking?
Probably a 1926 Macallan, maybe. If anybody's wanting to give me a bottle.
Anyone of you out there?
We were just reading that this morning. Incredible price. Believe it or not, I've tasted it.
Have you?
I have tasted it.
Do you think there's a difference between that and the current Macallans? Or do you...
Slightly.
Is it more...
richer, sort of different at the time. It's a long time ago.
Yeah, right. Wow. How interesting.
The day before I came out, I actually tasted the 1833 whiskey. It's been discovered at...
I heard about that.
Blair Castle.
Undeniably one of the most incredible discoveries in Scotch whisky in my lifetime or ever.
I've been doing archaeological digs in early distilleries, illicit stills, and we're always sitting, I wonder what it really tasted like.
Wow.
So that I was invited down, Stephanie MacLeod and Angus Reid. We were invited down for a tasting.
Wow.
And I'm not used to hyperbole or that, but
I
was pleasantly surprised. I was surprised that I was tasting something that was whiskey.
Yeah.
And it is identifiable as whiskey.
Wow.
But it was made 200 nearly years ago. And this was quite fascinating. But I was delighted to see that what we're making is still recognisable.
Isn't that incredible?
That was amazing.
Yeah. To show.
But you ask the question to a more affordable level.
Yeah.
My friends, the two wealthy hunters back in Speyside, we were drinking Billy Walker's new Meikle Tour from Glenlivet Distillery, which is peated, and a Chinkopin cask.
Chinkopin cask?
Yes, a lovely spirit, lovely whiskey.
Watch my Oka video if you guys don't know about that.
All right. Yeah, very important, and a beautiful whiskey. And what else have I been tasting lately? I live in the village of Dufton, so Monkey Shoulder is the malts from the Dufton Distilleries are very nice, and Talisker, it's a lovely, the 18-year-old there's lovely.
Yeah, the 18 is good.
But it's amazing the stocks of whiskey means that these brands are getting more expensive.
Yeah, and the Talisker 18 was one I was getting, but these days the price is creeping up. But then what's really exciting is you got a lot of these new distilleries coming up that we don't have to pay heaps of money, because we've got like Lagg coming up, we've got Raasay, all these new exciting distilleries, Arden American.
Raasay's lovely as well. Lagg, again made by high reputation distillers over in Arden. Lagg saw it actually just as it had been finished, and of course this beautiful visitor centre.
I really want to go.
It was going to be mothballed because of the pandemic, but they're all up and running again. But Raasay, I recommend. I think it will challenge most still houses, apart from Waiheke, as a view out the window.
Oh, yes,
looking back on
as the most beautiful distillery.
Yeah, I used to give it to Kalila.
Yeah.
Looking over to the Paps of Jura.
Yeah.
Or Kalila especially.
So do you think, so a lot of people who watch my channel, there's a lot of people who are mega whiskey geeks.
Good.
But I get a lot of people who, they're getting into whiskey and they want to know more about whiskey. What would you recommend to people who, they're getting into whiskey? How should they go about their whiskey journey? How do you think they should explore whiskey?
Well, Phil, I just saw when Mark showed me your site, so I will be going back to have a look at it myself.
Yeah.
That's what most of us do now. How does that work?
Yeah.
We'll have a look, hear somebody speaking about it. Now, I would also say, join a tasting, but don't be put off if somebody's shouting something that they taste, because it's what you taste, and it's very personal to you.
Yeah.
I don't like that. I'll try something else, because there is something else.
Yeah.
We often use Scapa as an early introduction whiskey for folk, and then take them down into the Speyside.
Yeah.
Scapa was perfect for that.
Right.
We found it was a perfect introductory whiskey.
Yeah.
But yet, as seasoned whiskey drinkers, we love the complexity of Scapa.
Yeah,
so
I can do both. Yeah.
Glenlivet and Glenfiddich, excellent whiskies for starting off.
Great, very approachable,
Exactly. And but join a tasting or something.
Yeah.
Try what you like. What do you like? What are you looking for?
Yeah.
That sort of things.
That's such good.
But don't be intimidated, because because it's a personal visit for yourself.
Yeah, and this is very true coming from someone who's been in the Scotch whisky industry so long. Yeah, if you are at a whiskey tasting and someone goes, "Oh, I'm getting grapefruit," and you're thinking, "I just get whiskey," look, it could be a matter, maybe one day you'll get it when you have a bit more whiskey. It's all a journey, we're all on it, and some people will just get different notes to you, and so that's a great point.
Exactly, because when we knows the new make spirit at Glenlivet, fruity, floral, banana.
Yeah.
And that's just three elements that we would describe now. It's more complex than that.
Yeah.
But when we're using the new make spirit, tick, tick, tick.
Yeah.
And also also as a distiller, you look for things that you don't want to see in the whiskey.
Right.
So, when you're making it, because if you or the team changed Glenlivet, the chief blender would be saying, what the hell have you done with this spirit?
Yeah, right.
So this is a style of spirit that we aim to do,
You're trying
to make.
To keep that consistent product. And
But yes, one of the best examples, and I'll use Scarpa's new make, is half the team used to describe it as leather.
Right.
But leather is their first folk of a certain age going to school with a nice new leather satchel. You opened it up and that lovely, and that childhood memory sticks with you. To me, it's pineapple chunks. It was a confectionery in Scotland. It was a cube. And that is pineapple. So when I retired, they gave me a tin of pineapple chunks.
How did they? Really?
That was to replicate the Scarpa I always looked for. So with all that styles, you mentioned Longmorn, lovely soft nose.
I love
so soft.
And just that gentle sherry influence coming in as well.
It's a fantastic whiskey.
But
there's heaps of them.
Yeah.
I met a gentleman came in here yesterday and came up to the distillery and he says, he says, my grandfather had a distillery back in Scotland. And he says, it was, what was it? He said, I says, your name must be Blanche. He says, yeah. He says,
is that right?
My grandfather had Glen Elgin between 1900 and 1930.
Wow.
So you see there.
Isn't
There's
that
whiskey
incredible?
royalty even here in New Zealand.
Isn't that incredible? This has been a great chat. I've really enjoyed this.
Well, a great pleasure to
someone
meet
like
you.
Thank you very much. Hope we'll meet again soon and have another dram together.
Yes. Slàinte mhath.